Sunset, a spiritual experience that points to the hope of tomorrow. Here we have a family celebrating a birthday, a truly memorable experience in their lives. In this video, Astrology of Understanding Life Experiences, created, directed, and presented by Reverend Dr. Dikki Mullen, Dr. Mullen talks about our life experiences, both positive and challenging, and how these are associated with our astrological charts.
This is Dikki Mullen, astrologer from Orlando, Florida, with thoughts about your horoscope and why we experience the things we do during the course of our lives and how to cope with them. An experience that's positive can stay with us for years. A negative element within a situation can destroy the whole experience. Understanding the houses of the horoscope helps to cope with why, in this lifetime, our experiences will affect what happens to us. The planetary ruler of each of the 12 houses of the Zodiac in your birth chart might be in another or different house. The houses are determined by the Earth's turning on its axis during the course of the day. At dawn, think about how the day feels as opposed to noon or sunset, and that can give you kind of a sensation of what the houses are, their different areas of life, and how significant they really are. It's one of the reasons astrologers are so concerned always about having an accurate birth time, because the time of day of birth will determine the general nature of the experiences you have in the physical world as determined by the houses of the birth chart. The first house is the same as the ascendant or the rising sign, and this goes out to gain experiences on a personal level. The ascendant is you apart from your family, from other interests. These experiences relate to personal interests inside and outside of the life experience. The second house has to do with the use of resources and values. The ruler of the second house will show how to gain what you need to be comfortable on a physical level, how to appreciate and use all the wealth that the world around us provides. Also talents that will help to attract what's needed to have a comfortable and rewarding life. The third house has to do with the intellect and communication ability. And the job and experience of this house has to do with thinking things through, using what input we have through what we hear, what we observe, in order to make the right choices for understanding. The fourth house has to do with a foundation. It's experiencing the family background. I think everybody's family is kind of a mixed bag of tricks. And sometimes when I'm doing readings, I will tell my favorite joke by George Burns. I know that's dating me a little bit, but it has to do with family members and how they affect each other, because that's a very, very big part of what we're experiencing, good or not so good. Oh, the joke goes like this: the most important thing anyone can ever have is a large and loving family in a distant city across the country. Anyway, that means that detaching from the family, but yet remembering our roots and making the best of them, physical and emotional security and ancestry. The fifth house experience has to do with love, creativity, fun and games. I always say that if you have a choice between a medical checkup and a vacation, to choose the vacation. Now that's a personal opinion, but having productive leisure time does so much to help the health of the mind and body. And the fifth house also is children. So those of us that think of our pets as children, we might look at the fifth house for that experience. And how you give and exchange love and creativity, what's most enjoyable. The fifth house is that experience. The sixth house of the birth chart has to do with work, routine duties, diet, and health. The ruler of the sixth house and planets in the sixth house help you to grow in willingness to make an effort in order to produce what we need. The seventh house is to do with cooperation. No one is an island. I think John Donne said that. And we have to learn how to build both romantic and work relationships to have a healthy and balanced life. Cooperating, relating to others, open confrontations, open teamwork, commitments. The seventh house shows how to experience that in a positive way. The experience of the eighth house deals with anything to do with the afterlife, the spirit world, also invested, inherited, unearned money, perhaps through a tax return or insurance settlement. The eighth house goes beneath the surface, and it is building upon what's necessary to go further and to let the old die and leave and to move on. The eighth house is very powerful in experiences relating to mediumship and to ghost tracking. It's a very broad spectrum house, though, because it's also stocks and other investments. The ninth house experience has to do with philosophy, travel, and religion. There's a saying I think of with the ninth house that says, "Tell me not how much you've studied, but how far you've traveled." I do think both traveling and formal study are important, but the ninth house is extending the mind, allowing higher wisdom, philosophy to enter, and also a divine connection with the deeper meaning of life. Many who have traveled to space, astronauts, have hinted that the further out they go, the more there's a sense of there being a divine being or a divine purpose. The ninth house will point out what that channel might mean and how that is apropos to your own experience. The 10th house is responsibility and success. Are you going to be promoted to the head of your department, start a company that affects many people, influence others by being in the public arena, moving to build a productive, rewarding career, and to extend socially and professionally? The extent to what that means on an individual level is described by the 10th house. The 11th house is experiences involving friends, group contacts, organizations of some type. The 11th house planets that are there, the sign on the ruling cusp, will show how to deal with different types of people, to network, to become one with all. The idea of the human condition, sociology, the concept of humanity, all of that lines in with the 11th house experience. Finally, we're at the end of our series of houses and how they relate to the different experiences within life. And the 12th house has to do with overcoming any dependencies or any limitations. Suppose one is born with a speech impediment or high spectrum autism. The 12th has to deal with those who might have those limitations. The 12th house shows how to experience that, cope with it. It has to do with facing whatever misfortunes we have, karmic lessons, and meeting the challenge that has to do with rising above opportunities that might be not all we expect in this lifetime. Secret sorrows and anything that is just very, very hard to detach from, but yet can't be allowed to be an anchor or an albatross. The 12th house will describe that experience and how to cope with it. look at planets in the individual houses, and again, the ruling sign on the cusp, and where that ruling planet might fall, for a complete understanding of what to experience and how to make the brightest and the best of it, which is the purpose behind astrology.